Let's go.
With that, I'd like to call the Industrial Development Board meeting of Hartsville, Trousdale County to order. We do have a quorum tonight, so we can proceed. Seth, if you don't mind, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. In your packet, you'll have the meeting from January the 24th. If you did not have time to review that prior to the meeting, please go ahead and do that now.
I'll make a motion, we accept that. So,
Thurman makes the first motion. Do I have a second?
I'll say, great.
Great, seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Also in your packet tonight is the treasurer's report. There's only one transaction. And I guess that was probably back first of the year, the filing fee for the IMB. Other than that, that's it. So Mr. Moreland first. Heather, was that you on the second?
West.
Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the treasurer's report, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next item on the agenda is retail strategies. The mayor and I had a Zoom call with Mill Graves last Friday. It lasted about an hour. Basically, it was a report on the ICSC meeting in Vegas. And I'm sure all of you got your report on that, I believe. Well, I believe he's emailing everyone on the board, so I hope you've had an opportunity to read over that. I won't regurgitate it to you, but there were a few interesting points. Popeyes opening 2,045 new stores this upcoming year. Burger King, also owned by the same company, is in with that. Jack's, Ace Hardware is still sniffing very hard. A major grocery chain whose name they could not disclose, looking at us very hard. And one thing I found extremely interesting, I guess I didn't realize this was going on with Lowe's, but part of their expansion plan for the upcoming years, they're looking at smaller locations geared more towards the area in which they reside. So for us, it would be more agricultural, four-wheelers, side-by-sides, things that, maybe not every Lowe's sells, but that's how they intend to grow this upcoming years to build smaller stores that are targeted. I thought that was some interesting information. I don't think we really had a chance to get a Lowe's, but perhaps we do. I thought that was worthy of mention. They announced something I'm sure we all know, that we have a big gap in the clothing market. They're looking at that very hard. And so a lot of information, and I'm always impressed with how on top they are on retailers in the area. They're very crisp about knowing what's going on, and I believe they're marketing us as hard as they can, but they desperately need to win. So do we. So we'll see how that goes. There is a conference coming up in Nashville on August the 8th. And we've been invited. I think it's important that we show, since Nashville being so close to us, and the fact that we're engaged with the retail strategies, I think it makes sense for us to send someone from the board. And normally, I guess that would be me, and I would be happy to go, but I absolutely cannot go on August the 8th. So I'd like to open the floor for discussion as to whether you think we should send someone or not. So this is one of their typical networking events. It's an all-day event downtown Nashville. The cost is $397 per person. At this point, if you registered earlier, would have been a little bit less. It's $397 now or $427 on the day of the event. So how do you feel about having a representative there? It's all day. Pretty much. By the time you get up and drive down there, and it's from 10 to 10 at night, you do the after hours social. Yes. Is included. So with that is, what are your thoughts? Do you think we should send someone? They mentioned that they wanted to extend an invitation to Matthew Carmen because he happens to be the owner of the most desirable commercial property in the city limits. So they thought it would be ideal for him to go, that they were going to contact him this week sometime. So I don't know what the status of that is. They're trying to get him to go. But what do you think about an IDB member going to represent us? Thoughts on that?
Someone probably should.
Heather, I've seen that grin before. That means your wheels are turning, and I would like to know what's on your mind.
I think we'd lose out on, I think we could lose out on knowing what our options are if we don't have someone there.
Tracy, thoughts?
It would be a good networking event for sure.
I think we need all the network that we can get, to bring this thing home and. I'll be the best one for it, but I think somebody needs.
Well, I apologize for not being able to go, but Seth, I mean, you agree we need to have somebody?
Yeah, I agree too, and I would volunteer, but I'm out of pocket that day as well.
What is it, what day a week is it?
It's Tuesday.
Paul,
Yeah, I can go.
would you like to go?
Well, I can go, yep. I can go.
All right,
Tuesdays are good days for me. I can be gone all day and nothing serious will happen.
so just to be by the book here, could I get a motion to send someone from the IDB?
I'll make a motion that we send somebody from the IDB, that person recommending Paul. Connects.
Second that motion.
All right. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I would go, I swear I would. This game.
I'm traveling the day before, so that means I'm not guaranteed I'll be back.
Mayor, do you have a desire to go as well?
You know, I might go to. So,
Okay.
you know, county and title only.
All right.
And numbers would be good.
Yeah.
Well, I think
I think so.
yeah, I think it's, yeah, I think the mayor carries weight.
Agreed.
And it might help encourage Matthew to go. He needs to be, you know, you and I talked with, you know, about the fact that Matthew's concerned about making sure he doesn't make any mistakes on the city's property. And they thought that they could give him some guidance on that.
You know, how to develop it, lay it out. I would say he want that advice if I were him. Okay, would you like me to make the arrangements?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Do I put it down?
Sure.
Okay.
I've traveled with Paul before. He's,
So, you know, it's being paid.
Okay. I will get your applications put in. Thank you, everybody, for stepping up. Okay, also another interesting fact that they brought up to me was that they have seen a 27% increase in traffic in the Hartsville area. And by traffic, I mean, they track cell phones, they track credit card purchases. That's how they generate the leakage reports and some of the other data that they have given us before. Which is remarkable and also kind of scary, in my opinion, that we were tracked so closely, but we are. And they asked if I could possibly verify the 27% growth number in some way. So I thought that the sales tax figures should tell that story similarly. So I sat down with Amy Thomas on that, and we went through sales tax information for 2 years, and we came up with a 27.9% increase. So those numbers were very, very close. And it did validate what they're seeing on their end, which I thought was an interesting piece of information. It's that's quite a large increase
And that's increased
from 2 years ago, which is approximately when they ran their first sets of reports. So
and they track cell phones.
cell phone data, credit card purchases. You know, they may not have your name and your address, but they know you were there and you purchased a certain amount and you were in the store for a certain amount of time. So that's the kind of information they extract. I thought that was very interesting.
Are they giving us any feedback on the retail strategies part? Are they giving us any feedback on what they're up against? What's our challenges?
You know, I'm dying to ask that question. I think we all know the answer to a lot of that, but I would like to hear
From what they say.
what they have to say about it. I'm in contact with them at least every other month for an hour or so on the phone. They really seem to be going after it. It's not a matter of effort. And we do have challenges unique to us, without a doubt. But I'm going to, at the end of the day, hopefully we'll get a win. If we don't, hopefully we can collect some information that will help us make better decisions in the future in regard to what our challenges are, so that we might build a plan to address those. So I think it's been a good exercise so far. It's just, as I said earlier, they desperately need a win, and so do we, as far as landing a retail client.
Hopefully this gathering in August will give some insight for eligibility and recruiting. Just straight for your eyes to see, because I told Scott a couple times in the past that City of Lebanon has hired them again, and recruiting is what they are won by them so much. So maybe you'll get your hands and opportunities of building relationships with those recruits at this gathering in Nashville, because apparently that's the win-win in the conversations that I have with the Lebanon's Economic Community Development Director. So we should both bed. No pressure.
Good luck, guys.
Wear your clean shirt.
Yeah.
Isn't your mission if you choose to accept it?
Gosh, we even if we're tired.
All right, that's really all I had on retail strategies. As I said, you got the reports, you can read through them. There's a lot of information in there. I didn't want to rehash it all. Next on our agenda, we have Mr. Carson Jones with us tonight. And I asked him to come and give us an update on Iris Fuel Tech, since we last saw him a couple of years ago.
It was a whole baby ago.
A baby ago, congratulations. So Carson, the floor is yours. Tell us kind of where you are, where you were, and where you're going.
Yeah, I brought a couple things just because it's hard for some people to understand blow molding when you say it out loud, but it's just plastic. Right? So this is what we make. We make it in that size and a little bit smaller size. But all we're doing is taking high density polyethylene, about 40,000 pounds a month. It's delivered to us, or excuse me, 40,000 pounds every 2 weeks. That's what a typical delivery is. So around 80,000 pounds of pellets we're taking into the back of the park over there. We convert them into these fuel tanks. So average, we make around 60,000 of them a month. We ship everything we make. We have very little inventory. The customer pretty much pulls it all because they do the assembly on their side. We started in blow molding. I started in blow molding about a decade ago. And fuel tank blow molding specifically was about the last 6 or 7 years. And so what we've done down there is we've used the facility to rebuild machinery that was otherwise discarded by some of like the Johnson & Johnson type companies that make, the majority of the world's food bottles and yogurt bottles and Gatorade bottles. They gear up $4 or $5 million for a project and they run it for 2.5 or 3 years and we find somewhere to stick it. And so it was really risky pulling all the equipment out. It was about 5 flatbeds of equipment that we pulled into there the first time. But now we have 4 of those machines in the building, so we pulled in about 20 trailers of equipment. And we have 4 standing blow molding machines, and only one of them's under power. And so what we've done in the time since you guys gave us the dock, we've shipped around 160 full truckloads of product out. So we've used the dock 30 times each time we did that, right? So another 100 receipts of inventory of full truckloads at 30 pallets. So the mobile dock that you guys helped us use or helped us get, we've used it an awful damn lot. We have 16 employees that have been with us since late 2020. Yeah, right at like November is when we started hiring. And we've been able to provide around $500,000 in wages through the time. So far it's gone really well. The phase that we're in now is I have these other 3 machines. That same thing, we kind of stripped them down and we're treating them like a old Mustang or an old Camaro, and we're ready to repurpose them for the new products. We have a Polaris Ranger tank that's going to be coming in sometime late next year. And then with Toro, we have a backpack blower tank that's supposed to be coming in about April of next year. So the new capital call with our lender, who's Pathways Lending. Some of you guys may know them because they help out a lot with state projects and economic development projects. I think they actually are who supports volunteer pool right here in town. But those guys are about to extend another $2 million for more equipment. And we should be hiring around 18 more people in about 18 months. So once everything comes online and we finish our trials and approvals and actually go into production, there's a little bit of a gap there. But our big problem now is we're staring at another $250,000 into a facility that we really only have about 18 months left to lease on. And I know that there's probably opportunity to extend that lease, but there's this back and forth over sewer and whether it will ever get put in. And everybody, I think, has kind of heard about this over time. So it's just very cat and mouse. We're looking at this money and putting it again into this building, but we don't know how permanent it will be. And again, you have 20 truckload of equipment in there. Between the fire suppression and power, we already put around $175,000 into the building. So the last place we left off with that entity was we worked with their engineer about what our requirements were as we grow. And they stipulated there was about 2 places in the park that would work for us. And one of those is the one out in the very front, which they just feel really choosy about and maybe don't want to hand that out to anyone. So we're really just trying to reach out now and feel what options there might be in the limits. Because I mean, I live here, right? I don't want to go anywhere else. And I love back behind the park. And we've seen different development options in their office over there to even show our building expanding to 100,000 square feet. So again, that's our big struggle right now. We've kicked butt with phase 1. We're going into phase 2. The financing is all secured. But really the indecision is what we're fighting because of the permanent home, right? Again, we're still on the mobile dock. We're using a 5,000-pound forklift up and down all day long. And I'm telling you, it's the most unsafe thing I've ever done in a manufacturing setting, but it's kind of what we got. So we're going back through and getting quotes on all the things that would need to be done for the building and always entertaining doing them on our own dime. But as you can imagine, we keep coming up against it and saying, you know, we still haven't heard. But when some of the other buildings down in the park got dressed a little bit and painted and new doors, it made me think that there was more of a chance that our building too would be, you know, part of something like that. So it's just a struggle right now. A permanent home is our big struggle.
Is that because you're afraid that the lease won't be renewed or because the building needs more capital improvements?
It needs more capital than what it seems like is going to be put into it. But that used to be based on the location of it. And that's why, again, I felt like seeing the other buildings all get updated. Maybe that stance has changed a little bit to where there would be more interest in that. But I think the thing that's unfortunate is the dock that is always talked about it seems to almost stand in the way of a decision. The indecision of the dock stands in the way of a decision. And whether you said that that was very likely to happen, we're still probably the best candidate that would use it. Right? When we get large pairs and machinery, and we can make those in blue 50-gallon drums. I mean, medical aid and all that from where we're at in this park, if you can get down into hurricane territory, it's prime. So still, if the dock's coming, I want to be there. So if it's not coming, I won't be there.
What's our building are you in?
What's that?
Which building are you in?
The 32,000 square foot one in the very back as you turn, after you go through the security gate, the first one on the right.
Is this at Power?
Yeah,
Con?
Power Con.
That's
Yeah.
Power Con.
Yeah, just behind the prison. Right off. the corner.
Do any of the other buildings have a dock that is suitable?
Not really, I mean, the last four, I think, there's 16,000 square foot ones on the end that we're even used, but. They're at like 62 inches because of all the. Dredging or whatever's happened with the concrete, you know. So,
So,
and they're all smaller.
so, Mr. Chairman, if I may ask,
Do what it is.
what is the resistance you're running into?
Well, I've heard that the one side out front is being appraised. I felt like it's been being appraised for maybe a couple of years now.
Would it work better for you? Is that,
It would be suitable because it's pad ready and a lot of what I understand to be design approvals have been done. You know, shovel ready is more than just, hey, we've got a place where you can pour concrete. There's been some approvals in place with size of building and easements and parking. So that site's very appealing because there's no site cost, right? You can get right into construction quick. But it's also the premier site in your industrial park, the first one you come into and see. And so I feel like it's the prized possession. So even getting a price to know if I would want it is not really an option.
is it the square footage you need?
Yes, it's probably the biggest one in there. They say that it can expand up to 160,000. And we're trying to build at a minimum 60 to 90,000 square feet, just so we can kind of fulfill this next 18-24 months of real business that we have. Because if you guys come down there, I mean, we got gas cans coming out of the seams of the building. We filled it up with everything we could possibly get, and they just go out like hotcakes. But if I turn another machine on, you know, and then a third one, and a fourth one. So right now, I'm already admitting to myself, we have more capital in place than what we can run where we're at. But we had to put them in place somewhere and develop them, get them running again. It's a lot of work. So, yeah, we know that at some point it would be more like 120 to 150,000 square feet. A lot of that comes too, because we've been to a lot of the competitors' facilities, you know. What we'll end up doing one day would be work for Bad Boy Mowers, and you know, John Deere has some business that used to be down the street in Gallatin that they're likely going to get rid of it. It will probably come to us. So it's a lot of that power, off-road equipment, rec market. Domatic is a company over in I want to say that they're in Cookville, but they were formerly like Moeller Marine. So they're another outdoor company that has a lot of blow molded product. We've quoted 3 or 4 things for them. So, you know, we intend to grow. We've had zero struggles because everyone that we compete against is so big. They already have every employee in their town. They bring office staff out from the desks just to keep machines running. And so, you know, again, we're in a unique spot because we're so much further south than the people that do what we do. They're all a little further up in automotive land. So we provide a lot of neat things for chemical manufacturing in Georgia, Alabama, you know, in Polaris, they love us just because of shipping location. So it's been really neat to see the traffic that came through our way since we started. Again, 270 trucks, I think, is about the total of all in and out. But it's been amazing. It's been a little bit crazy, but we certainly need to find a home. Struggle.
Well, one thing you said was that you had 4 machines that only one was under power. And that's because is that because you do not have enough power in the building? Or,
And I'm unsure of how much money to spend to bring it in, because really I'd like to bring in enough power for all of them. But if that's not gonna work, I should only power two of them, you know, but then whatever time I don't put into the other 3 and 4, number 3 and number 4 in there, because we couldn't energize it, you know, it's kind of dead capital. It's a hard rate, but we're still focused regardless on getting all 4 of them running, even if I have to take it down and move it out of the way and pull the next one over and rebuild it off. It's just that it's substantial amount of work. And it's dangerous work, you know, we're using 40,000-pound forklifts and rigging with safety equipment and flaggers. I mean, it's definitely not for lighthearted.
They have 3-phase out there.
They have what?
3-phase, do you need 3-phase?
No, we already have it for the one machine, and I have enough power on the pole to get the second, but in order for us to get all 4 of them, I need to go to a plat mount and put it underground, because it's too much for them to want to hang up on the cans. So it's just a major investment. I mean, and I'm telling you, there isn't a prettier place in this town, only because I've been down there for 3 days straight with no sleep and seeing sunsets and sunrises, but we love it back there. And if, you know, we don't want to be in the premier spot, so that hopefully, like what you guys are doing, bring someone else in, right? We would love that. That'd probably be good for us if more shipping is coming out to the park so that our rates can come down. So we're not necessarily a fan of leaving where we're at. And we know the challenges of floodplain that runs through the back, but we're also willing to make the investments that I don't think Tennessee Central will or can.
what do you need from us?
I honestly didn't know if you guys would have tabs on any land that was zoned appropriately within the limits outside of the park, if there's any other opportunities where buildings exist and sewer exists. Because the reality of moving is, I don't even want to think about it, but we have to, you know, we really have to. It's a big part of our next 18 months is having these machines all run. So I've got to find a way. Now, we've entertained TW Frierson, who's a major contractor and builds a lot of buildings in the state. All the economic development people at the state suggested we speak with them specifically. And so there's been a couple of, you know, there are private groups that finance the buildings that come in. So, you know, we've danced with all these people. We looked at some of the land that the industrial park up north just acquired, but again, significant site development work up there.
How many acres do you guys need?
At least like 8, but 12 would be a little bit better. Yeah, it's been, I really tried with the gentleman who owns the first building here coming into town, right in the city limits, and yeah, he's just a hard conversation. So, and that again, it's a pretty small lot, and you're expanding it all, you're wiping the slate clean. Where we're at now, I mean, we can resheet the building, brand new metal. The structure's great. You know, we can insulate all 32,000 square feet of it. And again, from my understanding from their own maps, they have their own possibilities showing it expanding to 115. So I just, you know, a big part of it's getting sit down with that group and just asking in a maybe more transparent way that, you know, we're running out of time. So.
Ma'am, it'll take you way more than 18 months to have something like that erected before else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially if you're wanting to do financing.
And that's why we started walking through it all, because we really wanted to understand the difference with some of that and how the capital would carry on our balance sheet and what our financiers would think of it. And there's not a lot of concern until we started talking about the potential of getting into a clean room facility and doing more of a medical grade, so that we can blow all industrial, medical, FDA, and kind of have a more diverse, you know, scope instead of just fuel. Because I'm not naive. I mean, you guys all probably own electric mowers or electric something. It's just happening, right? So I can't stay in fuel forever. And that was always the plan, that we would expand to first response, first aid, because of our location just outside of the hurricane zone. And then some of these other things that I mentioned would just require more of a clean room. So our facility for the same square footage can be a $5 million building or an $8 million building, just by those standards of clean room or not. And everything's on the table from our perspective. It's just hard to know what the options are locally. That's what the hard thing is.
Okay, so you're in growth mode. But you're being held back because you cannot identify your next lease. And
A more permanent way to expand, you know, we can't function in 32,000 square feet, and even the money that we're already approved for to use, if I start spending it, I'm gonna run out of space. And so, we've done a dance a lot about the building and what the options are with it. And I just haven't got anything back on what these other sites will cost. You know, there's development work going on in the park right now to prep additional sites. From some standpoint, but they're still too small. You know, one of the sites that's being prepped right now is still just about the size of my building. So that doesn't even help us at all. So yeah, I mean, part of why I ended up there though, is because it was one of the only things available, right, with the headroom. So we couldn't just move these things into any old building, needing that, you know, 22, 23 foot clearance, to make them all work. So.
Chairman, thanks for that question.
yes, sir.
The building you're in, could it be expanded? That's a possibility.
From my understanding, there's been plans on their end to do that very thing.
Okay.
I've just had a lot of resistance on interest or willingness
Go ahead and do it.
to do it or to sell it to us so we can do it ourselves. We mentioned timing of construction. Any of the timing that goes through those loopholes is subject to way more extensive red tape and quoting and time than if we owned it and we could just do it ourselves.
If you could expand that building, would you be happy there?
Absolutely tickled. Yep, we would love to expand there. I can walk there as fast as I can drive there. Right, with all the turns and going back from my house to there, I can about go right down, walk past the nuclear tower and right over to the plant before I could drive there. I don't ever want to move. It's the best.
You said. You got some things coming in the next 18 months.
Mhm.
Are you out of space now for the next 18 months?
No, once they go to production, though, we are.
When do they plan to?
So one of the projects is in April, and it's probably only gonna take up, you know, maybe 6,000, 8,000 square feet of storage space. But then when the Polaris Ranger stuff comes on, it's just a much bigger tank. You know, it's like an 8-gallon tank, and that's where it really puts us out, especially in a busy season like summer and springtime are for these type of products.
And basically those bids are already out. I mean, this stuff's coming.
Mhm.
And you're
Yeah.
saying as early as April for the first round.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't. So basically, well, I'm understanding you're over a barrel.
But
Right.
starting out in our position, the capital call to get into the market was so high, I just didn't have, and the machines, you've seen them, they're just so big. So I kind of went into it without many options to begin with.
I mean, you're pushed. If they said yes tomorrow. Expand
Mhm.
on your own dime, you're still pushed to get this done.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a possibility.
Yeah, the only
Right.
head start
That's the only-
on it at all is that their engineer has been involved, Jerry Warren and Associates has been involved and has mapped all of it. So there's a little bit done from the red tape side of the state with water and all of those things. But as far as any building plans and specing any costs for foundation, you know, we haven't even started. So. Yeah, it's work in progress.
Well, congratulations on your growth, that you have hit the next difficult spot in the road is rising to that occasion. Probably road, and I'll applaud you for what you've been able to do. In the place that you are and knowing how you started, where you started. And Congratulations. Appreciate it. Anyone have any more questions for Carson? Go ahead.
In your current state, how much is manufacturing and how much is storage?
I would say manufacturing is probably about 25%.
And then you are thinking you'll have another 6,000 feet needed by April,
Yeah, 60,000.
60,000, by that.
I don't need it for the April stuff. It's towards the end of the year next year when we get the second new product in that's bigger. That's when we're gonna start running it out. So. We shall see.
Any other questions? Carson, thank you. Appreciate you coming in.
Appreciate you. Last time I didn't have any to show you because we hadn't turned on any power yet.
Can I make one more statement?
Sure, absolutely.
So, Carson, I'll look into the future on your sewer.
Yeah.
And I'll also make a couple calls for a couple other things.
I think one of the things that might end up being some of the cat and mouse is, my understanding is with our opportunity to file for another incentive with the state, we could potentially file more for ourselves in terms of loan money, for example, for equipment. Or we can put in for an investment credit that we would almost file in behalf of the county or maybe Tennessee Central or whomever the beneficiary would be, where the funds are then used for, you know, whatever greater purposes. And so I think that's one of the only opportunities that might exist for us to help get a sewer put back there to make all things open up, you know. But that seems to continue to stand in the way for a lot of us. Yeah, so we'll see. Thanks for your
Are
time.
you, are you just like the sheriff?
Oh, no, I'm a youth, through and through. I were just hoping someone would say something about football. It would make me a little more comfortable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Far as sewer away from.
It's, there is a line that is in an application. It's in the plan to get it farther back there and closer and another outlet eligibility right there. And that's part of what they're gonna apply for that. I think it's the regional thing. It is on our radar and on our capital improvements. For the water. Yeah.
But I mean, that's.
That's the, I meant to add, yeah, there's one more question I didn't ask him, and that was about his wastewater. How much does he actually send it out? How much is he putting in his product? I mean, reach out to you if that's okay.
Sure.
His contact information if I still have it.
Absolutely. I don't know a great deal about injection molding, so there's gotta be some though, for sure, in wastewater. I don't think it's hazardous. All that hazardous, I don't think, but again, that's not my wheelhouse either. All right, next agenda item is Cobblestone Hotel investor status. I'm hoping Paul could give us an update on that. Paul and Robert Thurman are pretty much heading up the investor group for that effort, and I missed the last investor meeting. So Paul, if you would enlighten us on what we're trying to raise relatively and about what percentage of that goal have we attained, or do we think we have pledges?
Sure. Of course, limited amount that you can say in a public forum because you have to be an accredited investor to be part of it, and the rules to be an accredited investor knock out a lot of people. $1 million in net worth without your primary residence included. That ticks a lot of people. There are some income levels. $250,000 a year if you're single, and the expectation that will continue or increase for the next 3 years. 500,000 if you're married, but the expectation that will continuing increase for the next 3 years. Well, obviously at those income levels, you're probably making $1 million net worth. Yes, so. The income levels are kind of a joke, frankly. So it's hard to really talk about the investor side of it in a public forum because. Fortunately, not everybody can invest, and those are SEC rules. Not anybody's, so they're governmental regulations, nothing that can be done about it.
So they're looking for so they have the expectations of criteria, what you have to have to be eligible to be an investor, and that's $1 million minus your residence.
Yep.
250 for single, 500 for married, annual income. What else are they looking for?
That's it,
Okay.
that will cover you, that'll give you a credit in investor status. So Cobblestone is interested, when we looked at this 4 or 5 years ago, we had 2. Hotel chains that were interested, Borders and Cobblestone, and shortly after we started talking to both of them, then Cobblestone bought Borders. And so. They seem to be the best fit. County paid for a updated hotel study. Company in Wisconsin did that. They specialize in it. It showed a 54-room hotel with a pool. We do have a site located. Don't have a price agreed on yet, but I think we're close. We need to raise approximately $2.5 million. And we're 65% of the way there. I have, and except for Cobblestone themselves, they will be an investor. Not a majority, but they will be an investor, which I personally, I think is great, because when they got skin in the game. And if the hotel employees all walk out in the middle of the night, no one of us gets a phone call, hey, come run the hotel. So we have, other than them, currently it's all local.
And the total cost for the build is somewhere around 11 something.
Right.
No.
Right. And Cobblestone does something pretty interesting. They guarantee it. So when they give you a bill, and it has, by the way, gotten just a biscuit cheaper. So one kind of could come down with this a little bit, since we priced it out. So anyway, that's where we stand. If anybody knows of a potential investor that can make the criteria, send them my way. I've got 2 that I've been playing phone tag with.
We understand that you really haven't gone after outside investors yet.
I have 3 outside investors in my pocket, but I just assume not use them if I don't have to. I'd rather they were all local.
All right, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Paul on that? Thank you, Paul. Next on the agenda is update from the mayor. Mayor, do you have anything to add that we haven't already?
You know,
Discussed.
Scott, you and I talked about the fact that this hotel could be kind of a linchpin that makes a bunch of other things happen.
It absolutely does. You know, sometimes it's the hotel that comes first. Sometimes it's the restaurants and the entertainment, but they follow each other around for sure.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I believe it will make a huge difference for Hartsville if we were able to get this off the ground.
Of course, one of the things that I have looking down the road is expanding the park after the trade park project's finished in the spring of next year. And we would be in line for the next grant and I'd love to see what I call a Cloverleaf ballpark, even if we have to. Acquire some more land, but the hotel would really make travel ball hot. And that's a real exciting thing to me. We're still working, without me getting into too much detail, working with Ward School to get a nature trail put together that would tie Ward School to the downtown, and that's going really well right now. The Goose Gala is probably gonna focus on doing some things downtown, and I'd love to do a public-private cooperative venture to really get some awnings downtown to kind of get things matched up and continue to bring the downtown back. We're gonna need a couple more hotels for sure, but I think we're located in an ideal place, 50 miles from Nashville to be a destination. For a lot of things, and the farming market thing is really taking off, and it has all kinds of possibilities. So, things keep moving forward.
Thank you, Mayor.
Gonna get your coffee shop. Said we'll get the new
New coffee shop. You know, it's interesting, Scott, that they didn't mention that Dollar Tree the other day. Are they even aware that it's retail strategies? Are they aware that
I'm sorry, say that again. It's Dollar Tree.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it's, and it's gonna be built. I mean, it's in the process of being built.
Yeah. Dollar Tree. We'll find something.
It hasn't been mentioned to me,
So that
and I can't imagine they would not know about that.
I could tell they weren't aware of it when he was talking, and, you know, it's here. It's just in the process of being, it's gonna be built right behind the Mint Mark, that block right there. And they were talking about Family Dollar. I mean, that was mentioned at your Zoom meeting. And I thought they're not aware of this is a was, but it's Dollar Tree.
Well, I'll get with Mel Graves on this. I'll make sure that he is aware. Anything else, Mayor?
Tracy probably had some news since the last meeting. Her son was accepted to the medical school. He's got his state. Congratulations, a big deal. Local hometown boy does well. So congratulations.
Thank you. Been his first night in Johnson City bus.
Oh, he did.
You take that.
It'll say anything else.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the public comment. We don't have anyone here except Callie White. If you have a comment, Callie, please speak up. Other than that, we've covered our agenda, and I'll entertain a motion to dismiss. Mr. Moreland, motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Thanks, everyone.